today we get to talk about love, your weight loss solution, and how you can feel it in minutes with your Eat Like a Goddess mentor, Sandy Zeldis, joining me here today. I love this because, many of you have heard my story or heard me talk about my sister and watching my sister struggle for a really long time. But what she didn't have was she didn't have a Sandy in her back pocket to talk to. Sandy works with spiritual and health conscious professionals, entrepreneurs, artists, performers who struggle with food cravings, weight, body image, and want to not only love food in their bodies, but make dieting and constantly having to think about food obsolete. And that's how you know you're in the groove. I mean, how do you wake up in your day? Do you wake up and think to yourself, oh man, should I really have that scrambled egg or not? What happens if the scrambled egg has butter? I mean, what is your relationship with yourself as well as with food? And then, this is what today's show is about. How can you make healthier eating habits a reality and inspiring? How do you motivate yourself and others in the process? But that's what Sandy does. And so if you're ready to achieve freedom from obsession, if you're ready to reduce cravings, if you're ready to say goodbye to addictive eating habits, increase energy and vitality, and look at your body as a spiritual sanctuary, then this show is for you. Today, we're going to really talk about and tackle this idea of love. But more importantly, why is this important? Many folks think that weight loss is about food. But I'll tell you from my own personal point of view, from myself, and watching my sister get to 450 pounds and die on a hospital floor because they couldn't turn her over to resuscitate her, I will tell you that was not about food. Today's show is in honor of all of the folks out there that have been in the same position that my sister was in, whether it's emotional, guilt, shame, or otherwise, and don't have a way to get out of it. That's what Sandy Zeldis is all about. It's about helping us understand that there is a way. There is a way to get underneath all of this and get above all of this. Sandy, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. Thank you for taking this topic on.
Thanks, Dr. Patton. Just had a moment there when you were telling your story about your sister. That really got me right in the gut. And, it's a really important topic, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
For so many people, because people are really stuck. Mm-hmm. And the solutions are just floating around on the surface, not getting in there, and really helping people. So I'm so sorry about your sister. I'll say that again.
Yeah, and it is sorry, but I'll tell you what the thing is for me is it helped me understand exactly what we're talking about today. It was never about the food, and none of us knew it. Mm-hmm. If we'd have known it, Sandy, I think maybe I could have done something differently. We didn't know it. I mean, we didn't have that conversation. And, it's interesting that we're doing this show today in the middle of, I think, one of the most interesting medical controversies we had in a long time in terms of whether obesity is a disease or not. And I know that's not going to be the topic of the show, but I think it's fascinating.
And I have really strong opinions about it, and I probably shouldn't even. I
have to bring it up. How could you not bring that up?
I know. And I would... I'm going to get really upset about this topic. Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean for you to get upset about it.
I know. I'm just going to say that my personal opinion is I don't like that. I really don't like considering it a, quote, disease. We then categorize it, we stigmatize, and we give medication, and we put them in this category that... Anyway, I just think it's
I want to use my sister as an example. I want to talk about this a little bit because we're going to talk about love today.
Yeah.
Had my sister been somebody that somebody walked up and says, you have a disease called obesity, and she were alive today, she still wouldn't be getting at the guilt, the shame, the blame, the feeling.
Or the emotional stress.
None of that.
Stress,
it wouldn't come up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what kind of pill, potion, or lotion, maybe diet pill, that wouldn't have worked.
Right.
And I'm really not sure that any of that would have done anything long term. My sister tried every diet on the planet.
Yeah,
everyone.
of course.
I saw her get down to a size 10. I saw it. It wasn't the issue. The food wasn't the issue. Today we're going to talk about what the issues are. Today's topic is love, your weight loss solution. I think we should start with a conversation about love.
Yes, and I just want to amend what I said, though, because I'm very emotional.
That's all right.
And I will say that there's pluses and minuses. I can think of arguments on both sides of the obesity argument. So anyway, but if I had to choose, I would say let's not medicalize it. But if people are going to get help, then, there's different arguments to make for that topic. So that's for that. But what I've seen, I started I was a chef for a very long time, dropped out of grad school to just cook because I'm this very creative person. And I love food. I've always loved food. And I was very health conscious and spent all my life, working with food, thinking about food, studying food and nutrition. And then I became a nutritionist later and did a lot of healing work. And what I found, Dr. Pat, which is, my clients taught me what to do. I don't, this is all from my work experience. I started to realize very, very quickly that there's a problem out there. And the problem isn't that someone needs another diet plan, Like most people, sure, we could talk about some things. Of course, who does? I still do. Gosh, I'm always looking at things, studying things, because it's fun for me. I actually enjoy it. But it's not where the rubber hits the road. Most people, not all, but the people who work with me are the people who can't get into action consistently enough, right? And why is that, And there's always a good reason. And so when I say the solution is, quote, love, I know how that sounds. And I know it doesn't feel like that. And here's what I want to say. What I've discovered is that it is. And that's why what I do now is really just a spiritual practice. And these are big words. And so I know your audience is used to hearing stuff like this, but I know most people would get a little frightened by that. But what it really, really is this inner solution, because when we reach for the food, when we're stressed, it's very automatic. It is not in our consciousness. It is not something we're aware of. It's just a coping strategy, and there's a damn good reason for it. And we end up hating ourselves. We end up there's so many secondary problems that arise from the diet industry and the thoughts and all the different diets you try. I'm such a failure. Well, you're not. It's not about the food. It's not about the diet. It's not about another program. It's about you. And I think the way to access ourselves better, at least in my experience over the years, is learning how to love ourselves. Corny as that sounds, you can do it. There are things you can do. Of course, I have a lot of things I could talk about around that today, as you know, but you can do it. It's really doable. It's not going to take climbing to a mountaintop and working with a guru for 20 years. You can do it.
Yeah.
And what is love? In quotes, love. It's an action.
Yeah.
And you can do it. Yeah.
I think that's what we're talking about today in a big way, because without getting to that place, and this is what you do every day of your life. This is your passion, Sandy, your commitment. And it's a very important conversation because, we're talking about dieting today and how I was watching some movie last night. I don't know what it was. I half watch a movie because I've got my computer on, and but it goes to commercial, right? And all of a sudden, there's this commercial about dieting, and what they've done is they've pointed to the Asian culture, the Japanese. This is right in the commercial, right? And they're looking at this, and they're saying, now we've created this beautiful pill that you can have, and has all the foods in it that the Japanese folks eat, right? Have you ever seen? I have friends that are from Japan. I have never ever seen them pile food on their plate. Hello.
I know. What is that about us? Oh, that's a whole nother discussion.
That's a whole different story. But this is really our obsession with dieting. We're going to take a short break.
So.
Yeah, we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about, what does it take to make the whole weight loss thing easier, less struggle. And for those of us that have tried everything, including that 500-pound thing, that diet, the 500-calorie diet that's going on right now. Let's take a short break, everyone. We'll be right back with the Dr. Pat Show.
Have a banana, Hannah. Try the salami, Tommy. Give with the gravy, Davy. Everybody eats when they come to my house. Try a tomato plate too.
Tune in each Wednesday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com to Inspired Action Radio with Jennifer B. Mastering the art of dream building in the real world. This hit show will inspire you to start painting the canvas of your life and bring your unique spirit and your amazingly intelligent mind together to find an incredible, practical, real-world strategy to building a life with epic results. Tune in to Inspired Action Radio with Jennifer B.
Hi, I'm Michelle Bond, the wellness coach who shines a light on what you put into your body. No two people are alike, and what may work for one person may not work for you. That is why I use biochemical analysis to see what is really going on in your body. This enables me to recommend the proper nutrition and supplemental program to help you feel great and lose weight. This method is painless, uses no needles, and is inexpensive. Why spend all that money on blood and urine tests that don't really tell the whole story when you can have an analysis that will? For more information, contact me at themichellebondshow.com.
How would you like increased health and vitality? How would you like to avoid the onset of disease as well as slow the aging process? This is all possible through a simple, safe, and natural process. Every day we are either moving toward wellness or away from wellness.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. I'd like to be your partner in achieving optimal health. Contact me now at maryjanemack.com or call 425-392-0659. Visit maryjanemack.com.
Are you a health-conscious, spiritual woman who is just tired of struggling with food obsession, emotional eating, and constantly having to struggle with weight and food? You aren't alone. The secret is within us, often in releasing internal resistance and blocks to our own success. To learn how to end the war with food and your body now and find peace, go to eatlikeagoddess.com for your free audio. Break free from food obsession and lose weight without trying. That is eatlikeagoddess.com.
Get inspired. Create the life you desire with internationally known radio host and motivational speaker, Sue London. Sue inspires millions of people to overcome difficult or traumatic situations in their lives. People feel hope, courage, and are ready to move forward after hearing Sue speak. Book motivational speaker Sue London for your next event at AskSueLondon.com. That's AskSueLondon.com.
Tune in to the Sandy Brewer Show, getting to the heart of what matters in your life. Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com, and experience the powerful healing voice of Dr. Sandy Brewer, one of Call-In Talk Radio's most dynamic, compelling personalities. Get ready for inspiration and contagious humor and her been there, done that, no-nonsense advice to meet today's challenges.
Listen and call in at 800-930-2819 for the Sandy Brewer Show.
Have a banana, Hannah. Try the salami, Tommy. Give with the gravy, Davy. Everybody eats when they come to my house. Try a tomato plate too.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. Sandy Zelda is joining us in the house. Sandy, we're going to talk about some of the programs you have. What's the best website for folks to visit?
Yeah, so right now I do have a program running, Pat. It's really, really, really amazing program. And it just started. I'm still accepting people just through the end of the week. So if somebody's hearing me right now, you're going to want to go to eatlikeagoddess.com. Eatlikeagoddess.com. Fill out that application. It's easy to find. It's under contact. Just hover your mouse over contact. Fill out that application to see if you're fit. Or you can go to the programs link. There's another link there to fill out an application. And see if you're fit. First, read that. You might or might not be. It's okay. But if you are and you're really ready, this is a great program. And we'll be talking more about, I'll be talking to Pat, to you, Pat, about this.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's an amazing program. I have amazing women I work with all the time, and they're dealing with this underlying issue. They want to take responsibility and heal from the inside out. They're not looking for a quick fix. So, so it's not for everybody. So, yeah, that's what I've got going on right now, and that's at eatlikeagoddess.com.
Well, one of the things I want to say is they're not looking for a quick fix, but they are looking for a permanent one.
Exactly.
And that's the difference. Let's make a distinction about this. And part of that is, like with anything I've experienced, you got to be working with somebody that cares about you. And that's what you do. I want to take a moment before we start to talk a little bit, about weight loss and what it takes to make. Well, let's talk about that, because you do something extraordinary. You do something that does make weight loss easier and less of a struggle. And you talked about it during the break. You care for people. And I want to talk about how you do that.
Okay, this is so interesting. So it's funny because we talk about love and we get fluffy sometimes, like, oh, I'm just so nice to you. Like, well, what is love? What is it to love, right? And I was talking with you during the break about what I think about this and why do we have this problem in our culture that some other cultures don't, and what is going on? And, so to me it comes back to what is love and what is it to love ourselves? What is it to take care of ourselves? And like I said before, it's an action. And what does it take to want to be in action even? Like to even have that first moment where you say, yes, there's something I need to do here. I don't know what, but there is something I need to do here for myself. And I think that it's about kind of an attitude of self-responsibility. And this harkens back to the obesity, topic. And what I had said to you in the break was, what I think about that is we're a culture that wants a quick fix. And so there's always going to be people that will want that fix, a medical cure. People call me, who are about to go get bariatric surgery, okay? They know it's not going to help the problem. They really do. They tell me they know that it doesn't solve the need for the food, but they're just so tired of the weight, and they can't stand it anymore. But they're not really interested in the actual solution, right? And they just want the weight gone. And that's a quick fix to me that's really got some negative consequences. And I think that not always, obviously I'm not against medication, but I think that if someone is looking for that kind of cure or solution, it's a different kind of solution they're looking for. And I would say that the people that I work with that I see get the best results and are changing their lives permanently, truly permanently, and actually changing everything in their lives, not just their weight, because that's just a symptom. But, they're self-responsible at some level. They're willing to look at it. They're willing to take some actions that may or may not be easy for them. It's not about it being an easy road. It's just about, hey, this is up to me. I can take responsibility for this. And that is love, in action. That's love as a verb. Love is a verb to me. And so that's what it is. And I've had to learn it over and over, I think I'm constantly learning about love. And what is it to love ourselves? What is it to take responsibility? And, even if something's difficult or challenging or we're up against it, can we still love ourselves, accept ourselves, be in action about it? Ask a good question, right?
I think so. Let's talk about, sort of the barriers for that. And this is something that I love. I love to, just talk about, some of the things that, in my own experience, the worst thing that I could ever do for myself in the scenario of things is have food in the house that I know that if I open up that bag of potato chips, it's gone. There is no question. You know what I'm saying? So I want to talk about self-sabotage in the many different faces of it, because it's not always about food. And I would love to hear what your perspective on self-sabotage is, because everyone, I think, knows that term.
Absolutely. And what I would say is my clients at some point get to a place where the chips are around them, the candy's around, and it's just not interesting, right? It doesn't have that pull. And that's when we've, cleared the inner need for it, really, like worked on the real cause. And so I think the best thing I can do is give you an example of how this looks. And I've given you, we've talked about this before, but I feel like sometimes I'm maybe saying the same things over, but I'll give you a different example of something that just happened in a group of mine, where this happens. There's so many examples, but I'll give you one right now. A woman I was working with had a lifelong obsession with food. It always showed up as kind of binge eating, stress eating, just eating throughout the day, and also tons of sugar cravings daily.
Mm-hmm.
The daily habit. Mm-hmm. And of course her weight was affected, right? So, and she was in her 40s. So this is 35 years worth of an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And we were working together, and we're addressing the cravings, right? I use EFT primarily, but there's other tools. EFT is emotional freedom technique. It's tapping on meridian points to release trapped emotion, trapped energies. And so we're doing this, and we're just going through all these different stressors in her life. Just a tremendous amount of stress in her life, in her current situation, in her work situation, and also in her past. And what do you think happened after, I think it was 8 weeks?
Oh, tell me, though.
I'm actually it's going to go up on my website. I just need to get it all down, the amount of stuff she told me.
Wow.
Sugar cravings completely gone, completely no interest whatsoever, and it's still there. I mean, at work, she's surrounded by sugar. It was one of her biggest, she thought she'd have to quit jobs, and I was like, no, I promise you don't. I mean, like, avoidance is not what we do. It's just you won't need it anymore once we deal with the trigger. And so now she's still around it. She doesn't need it. It has no interest at all. And then, so that's a huge thing for her. It's never happened. Never happened.
Wow.
Never.
Wow.
So it's not, it's a big deal for her. And it was an all day, it was the constant craving in her life. Sugar after every meal. It's gone. Completely gone. And then
wow.
The other thing that happened was she's starting to notice that she's not very hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So her constant hunger has completely kind of evaporated. Isn't that interesting? And she wasn't even consciously aware that she was even hungry or overeating. Most people aren't. They're just not aware of what they're doing. And she became aware that, wow, I'm eating all the time. I'm just not hungry now. And she's like, I'm eating and I'm full and I'm satisfied and I'm really not even finishing my plate. But most of all, her voice sounded so different. It was miraculous.
Oh,
she just sounded like a different person. And most people do. They get to this place and they sound they sound peaceful. And you can hear it. You can hear it in their voices. And then the other thing, there were so many things. So wait, I forgot what there were so many things that happened. That was just one person.
I think part of the conversation is, for some people, they don't ever think they're going to stop the cravings.
Nobody does when they start with me.
No.
Nobody thinks so. And the reason why it works is because we're going for the cause. We're shooting at the right target, which is the stress. And it's the unconscious stress. It's the stress we're not aware of. It's like the water we swim in. We don't feel it. We don't really know it's there. We just see the symptoms of it, which are the weight, the cravings, irritability, lack of sleep, things like that. It shows up as symptoms, but we don't recognize why we're having those symptoms. Do you know what I mean, Dr. Pat?
I do. I absolutely know what you mean, because if you don't get at the whole picture, what seems to happen sometimes, at least this has been my experience, is that thing you don't get to floats to the top, and it now becomes your latest obsession. And if we don't take a holistic approach and get underneath what's going on, then what we have is a subconscious that is completely unruly. And there's no other way to do it. And to do it with love and the way you do it, I think is like super brilliant. Sandy, before we kind of jump ahead and talk about this self-hate thing that goes on, let's take a moment again to give out your website and just talk about your upcoming programs.
Yeah, I'd love to. So my website's eatlikeagoddess.com. And the program that I'm running is my Total Goddess Transformation Program, and we don't focus on the food. It's not a diet plan. It's not looking at the externals, I call it, as most people have a lot of options in that regard that haven't worked for them. And what we really need to do is kind of do a deep dive on the inner connection. And so that's what we do in the program. And I don't teach the tools as in you become an expert, but I give you what you need in that program to make this issue with food obsolete. So my entire focus is around emotional eating, stress eating, food obsession, and how food shows up in your life. That's it. That's the entire focus. And it's a small, intimate group, only by invitation. You need to be sure it's a fit for people. And it's for people who are really ready to look somewhere else other than the food, who want to really have a permanent solution and not a quick fix, and are really ready to take responsibility and get into action, even if they don't know what to do. That's okay. You don't need to know. We do that together, and it's a lot of my one-on-one time, which is only available through my group program. So it's quite a deep dive, really. And so that's available at eatlikeagoddess.com. If you hover your mouse over contact, you'll see an application you can fill out if you read what information is given there and it appeals to you and it sounds like you. And then someone from my office will get back to you to schedule a time to talk. And again, to see if this is really a good fit right now. And we're accepting people through Friday into the program. So that's tomorrow.
Beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I will tell you this, that if you've ever been at a place of self-hate, it is really awful. It doesn't feel good. It's very difficult to get to step out of by yourself. Right. And I've been there. It's a hard place to even describe to people. But there are things and signs that show up. I would love for you to talk a little bit about what self-hate is, how it shows up, and why love is the remedy.
Well, I'll tell you this. I was talking to someone yesterday who said, I'm at my goal weight. She called me not to lose weight, which is interesting when people do that. She already knew. She said, Sandy, I just lost all the weight. And guess what? I still can't stand the way I look. She said self-hate. She said she just hated the way she looked in the mirror. She hated herself. She was not happy. And I said, yeah, because it's really not about the food or the weight usually. Mm-hmm. Right? So how does this show up? And this harkens back to talking about body image sometimes, but it can be a lot of things. It's not just body image for many people, but I do think that body image plays a very big part in our culture for women. It's just we're surrounded by images that are unrealistic and very, very, very restrictive. Mm-hmm. One image fits all, one size fits all, and that's absolutely not true. Can you look in nature and see that anywhere? Mm-hmm. No, not anywhere. The creator or the creative force did not make us like that. And yet, in the media, and there's very good reasons for this, why this developed, there's actually a reason. It's not out of nowhere. And maybe it's not even misogynist, although I was wondering if it was misogynistic. But there's a reason why advertising and media have created this image that's so unrealistic. Yeah. Looks good on TV, whatever. I don't really care why. I just know it's there, and every year it gets more restrictive. Mm-hmm. And now we have kids growing up with, more media than ever, right? Yeah. We're all on computers and iPhones and tablets and blah, blah, blah. And my little niece is sitting there 24/7 with some little, form of connection to the world and all these inputs, right? I didn't grow up like that. I grew up with media images. We all did. But now we're bombarded even more so than ever, and the images are getting more and more restrictive. I think that's part of the problem for a younger generation, and we're all kind of absorbing this unrealistic expectation, but you can take your body image back. You don't have to believe in it. You don't have to. I think for kids it's harder. I will admit that. Your peer group is so important to you, and I get that it's a different thing. But for those of us, I work primarily with adults, women, 35 to 55. And so it's a little bit different for that age group, I think. in that we can go back and really transform the body image. We're not looking at current time as much.
Right.
That's what I do anyway. That's what I choose to do, because what I find is the place of origin is where we go. That's the most important place to go. It's where all other beliefs are created or have roots from. So in my humble opinion, when I've gone in and helped people with the core belief, we collapse the current ones too, really interestingly. Mm-hmm. Fascinating. And so I'm really excited about helping people with body image, because I see such good results with it. And I feel like we can take our body image back. We don't have to believe the hype. We don't have to all look the same. You know, what a boring world. So,
Well, here's the thing I love about this. It's great, right? You know, there are different forms of conversation we could have about things. And one of the really interesting conversation, I had a friend of mine. And, you know, if you were to look at her, right, Sandy, what you would be looking at somebody and you'd say, oh, she's really fit and she's really lean. Mm-hmm, you know, one of the misconception, number one, one of the things she discovered about herself was she had a body fat index of like 43%.
Oh, how interesting.
Very interesting.
Really
very, because she looked, right? And so, you know, for her, that was important to know. Why? Mm-hmm. Because heart disease and a whole bunch of other things run in the family. And where is this happening? And so forth and so on.
Right.
The other part of what you said that I think is so interesting to kind of, you know, briefly touch upon is that nobody likes to feel bad about themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and it's not about the weight, because women will. Yeah, I mean, I've been there. That's kind of my story. It's not a weight issue. It's more of a body image. You know, I was fit as can be, and I was still miserable, and I could find fault. And it's like, come on, what are we doing? What are we saying? And you know, and I see that out there in our culture right now. This culture of perfectionism. I think, you know, that's not love.
No.
That's not love. That is the opposite. Not. Yeah. And like, can you love yourself no matter what? And that's the cure. And it's kind of like from there you take nurturing actions and you stop beating yourself up all the time. And that's really where it's at.
Yeah.
And then you're willing to look at it. You're willing to look in the mirror and do the work, you know, of saying, I love you, you know, which is so hard to do at first. And you're willing to try. You're willing to give yourself a chance. You're willing to look at your stress. Look at your emotions. Look at your emotional world, and sit with yourself, which is so challenging at first. I get that, but with the tools I use, it's actually much less stressful than other processes, I think. But it's kind of quantum in a sense, because I just think it's much, much easier for people to have something that's right at their fingertips that they can do anytime, anywhere,
right,
and works for everyone, no exception, except there are certain exceptions, but I work through that with people.
Right.
You know. Anyway.
And who wants to do this alone?
And nobody wants to do it alone.
No,
right.
you don't.
And with self-sabotage, you probably can't, because what self-sabotage does is it puts you into procrastination. And you just never take action. So you buy a program and don't do it. So I would say, no, this is not a home study. Not for someone who's in total procrastination. I have a home study course, but it's for people who are ready to get into action on their own and feel they can do that, and that's fine. There are people who can, but for people who are stuck, really stuck, you want to get support.
Right, exactly.
You really do want someone to help you through the initial phase, because then you can kind of drive down the road on your own, usually, once you've gotten a feel for it and you feel comfortable and you're on track and you're experiencing the results of what it feels like to get some freedom and peace.
Sandy, one more time, let's give out your website. And then we're going to share some tips, some tools that folks can enact today in their lives.
Yeah, so the website's eatlikeagoddess.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We talked about a lot of things today. And what I would love to be able to leave our listeners with are a couple of things you've learned along the way, a couple of things that, you know, the folks that are in your program, what they've learned to do. You know, can you please just share a few of those tips, solutions with folks today?
Absolutely. And so one of my favorite tips is really, really simple. I think the best things are simple. And it's really about choice, getting to choice. And how do we get to choice? Where we take a second to stop and think and bring awareness just in the moment to what we're doing so we can make a new choice. And so how do we do that? And I would argue that's a moment of grace, and it's a moment of, quote, love. It's what we're all looking for, where we actually make a different choice, right? It's this split second where we stop and make a different choice. That's love in action. So I would highly recommend really make it simple on yourself. If somebody's listening, I say this all the time, and it really works. It doesn't have to be hard, or it's not like you need 500 tools and tips from me right now. Just do one thing, and that is bring awareness to the moment when you're feeling overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, and just stop. And in that moment, if you can ask a good question instead of needing to do something about it immediately, and this is hard enough, I get that at first for people, especially without some of the clearing tools that I use. But you can start by asking questions instead of automatically going to a conclusion. And the conclusions are all the self-criticisms, all the hate, all the frustration. Just stop. And one of the questions I love, there's a couple, and there's several different ways of saying it, but basically, when you're doing something that you don't want to be doing, maybe it's grabbing for a cookie, or, you find yourself in a bag of chips, just kind of, if you can bring yourself to ask yourself one thing, like be curious. I wonder what I need right now.
That's great.
In other words, don't come to a conclusion, I'm a bad person, oh my God, I have no willpower. Oh. We go into this voice, and it's like, well, no. What if you could honor yourself and say, hey, I wonder what I need right now. And don't try to answer it. You don't need an answer. You just want to be starting to dialogue and hear yourself, And it sounds so simple, but it's really powerful. Because what we don't do is honor what we need often. We don't even know we're doing that, and that's okay. But you just want to get to a place where you start to really honor, wow, what's going on for me right now? What do I really need in this moment? Wonder what it is if I'm not aware of what it is. Usually, if you give yourself a second, something will come up. But in my experience, we don't do that. I really don't see many people do that. And so I think it's a valuable, valuable, valuable thing to do. And that's love in action, in my opinion. You would do it for a child, right?
I absolutely would. Absolutely.
You would stop and give them attention, right?
Yep.
And so that's love, isn't it? When we give attention to something, we're like, hey, you seem upset. Can I tell me what's going on? We don't do it to ourselves, right? So I say make yourself the most important person in your life. Love yourself as much as you love other people.
Yep.
Make it an action. And get into conversation, start to be curious about, I wonder what's going on for me.
Yeah.
It's so confusing. And even if it's just confusion, allow yourself to just go, I'm just so confused right now. Eventually, when we do this enough, we start to become aware of our own feelings. And I believe that, our emotions are meant to be fluid, like water. And what we do is we stuff them down.
Yep.
And we're not even aware we're doing it. So we have to get into a habit, I think, of being aware and just allowing our emotions to flow through us instead of getting stuck. And then we're fine, right? We're no longer resisting. We're allowing, and everything flows. And then what's really interesting is we have more access to who we really are.
Yeah.
And we're suddenly this whole person that has all this, it's like going from black and white to color, So you can't just cut off one part of yourself. You cut off your entire self. You can't just say, I don't want to experience XYZ emotions or experience, and not cut off all of your awareness. It's kind of an interesting thing. So we're just kind of opening up. And then it's amazing what happens from there.
Well, I think part of this is really, you said a number of different things that were super important. We don't even ask ourselves, what do I really need now?
Yeah.
Do I really need to call out for pizza at midnight and really get that thing in here and eat it?
Right.
What do I really need? What am I longing for? And
Right.
I think what you said is so important because it is that first step of connecting with ourselves or reconnecting with ourselves that we don't allow ourselves to do. And we go right to that thing that will numb us, whether it's food, other addictions, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, I know that, and I talked about my sister earlier. I know that for her, it was to ease the pain.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And we didn't have the knowledge and the tools that we have today about these things. And today we do. And so I want to thank you very, very much for all that you do. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Sandy. It's been a pleasure. It's been great.
Thank you, Dr. Pat. I love what you're up to, too. I love your radio show. It's just phenomenal. So thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, we're going to do it again. That's what I want. We just keep.
It's not over yet.
It's not over. It's not over yet. And that's what I love about it. One of the things that I do want to say, and I know you'll appreciate this, is I just want to say, everybody, don't give up.
Yeah, exactly.
Please, don't give up.
No, and can I say something about that,
please.
Dr. Pat? Do I have a second?
Yeah, you do.
I don't know our timing.
Yeah, you got about a minute.
Okay. I do want to say to people, because I get it, Dr. Pat, like, the people who contact me have tried everything, like really good programs, even other spiritual programs, a lot of spiritual programs. And so they really are in a place of wondering, nothing works for me, why would something work for me now? And I have to say, I feel like sometimes I've been given all the tough cases, and they can still do it. So, I mean, it doesn't matter where you're starting from, just do you have the willingness and the desire? That I can't give you. That's something I've noticed I have no control over. It's not, I can want it for you, but I can't do it for you. So I can offer you the door, and it's an amazing door. It's the door that you've been looking for, probably, because it's the door to you for people. And it's a tool that's so accessible to use. That's why I use it. And anyway, so what I'm saying is, everyone comes to me from the place of not thinking they can do it.
That's right.
That no longer scares me. It's like, okay, yeah, I know you don't believe you can, but I believe you can.
Yeah.
Because I see it. Or I couldn't do this work because people are very depressed usually when they start. And it's very hard to watch. I don't get excited about that. That's not fun for me. I want to see people break through. And so that's why I do what I do. And then they break through, and I get a lot of inspiration from that. So
that's right. Because you're able to see a progress in people that never thought they'd be able to change their lives at all.
Absolutely. And I get to pick people up, dust them off, and send them on their way,
Exactly. And don't we all need that sometimes? I know. As a matter of fact, later on today, I'm going to get a dusting myself.
Exactly.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you so much for joining us today. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pat. My pleasure.